There is a certain gravity that settles over us when life shifts, especially when a connection we held so tightly loosens its grip. It is a profound, heavy feeling, a weight that doesn't just sit on your shoulders, but sinks into the very core of your being. This weight is not simply sadness. It is the accumulated residue of expectation, memory, and the deeply ingrained sense of ownership that we carried within that relationship. Right now, if you are carrying anything at all, allow yourself to simply notice it. Don't try to push it away, don't try to analyze it. Just let your awareness rest upon it for a moment. Feel the tension in your chest, the tightness in your throat, or the dull ache behind your eyes. These sensations are real. They are the physical echo of something that has been lost, and acknowledging them is the first gentle step toward release. We often mistake this heavy feeling for something that needs to be fixed, or an emotion that needs to be extinguished. But when we acknowledge the weight, we simply recognize its presence. We allow ourselves to sit with the reality that we are carrying this burden, without judgment. This acknowledgement is not a surrender. It is a recognition. It is the moment we stop fighting the truth of our experience and start truly seeing it. This weight is often rooted in attachment, the deep need to possess, to control, or to keep something exactly as we remember it. When a relationship ends, we instinctively try to hold onto the fragments, clinging to the memory of what was, attempting to reclaim what was lost. This attempt to grip the past and own that history is what multiplies the burden. It becomes a cycle where we are tethered to an emotional reality that no longer exists, simply because we refuse to let go of our sense of ownership. Understanding this attachment is not about blaming ourselves for feeling it. It is about seeing the mechanism at work. We are attached because we placed a significant part of our self-worth and future security into that connection. The pain we feel is the natural reaction when that investment shifts, but the persistence of the weight is usually caused by the refusal to release the ownership, the insistence that this experience should define us, or that we must possess the narrative of it. As we sit with this acknowledgement, let us gently observe the illusion of control. We believe that if we could just hold tighter, or remember more perfectly, we could somehow manage this pain or secure the lost connection. This belief is an attempt to impose a structure on something inherently fluid and transient. The reality is that attachment is often an internal story we tell ourselves about how things should be, rather than simply allowing what is to be. Trying to control the memory or the outcome only adds another layer of tension to the already heavy load. The practice of letting go begins not with a sudden act of will, but with a slow shift in awareness. It is an invitation to release the need to possess and instead trust the flow of time. We are learning that we can hold the memory of the experience without needing to own it entirely. We can honor what happened without tethering our present peace to the past. This process allows us to reclaim our inner space. When we stop trying to manage the external weight of loss, we begin to notice the vast, quiet openness within ourselves. This is the space that exists before the story begins and after it ends, a space free from the demands of ownership or regret. It is the space where true peace resides, independent of any relationship or outcome. So, for this moment, allow the weight to simply be present. Feel it, notice it, and then gently exhale. You do not need to solve everything right now. You only need to acknowledge the weight, recognize that you are holding it, and permit yourself a momentary pause in the striving. Rest here, in the quiet awareness of your breath, knowing that release is not something we achieve by force, but something we allow to unfold. Let the stillness settle around you, and let go, just for this moment. We have acknowledged the weight, felt it in our bodies, and permitted a moment of pause. Now, as we settle deeper into this quiet awareness, let us turn our gentle attention inward to understand what attachment truly means and what ownership really looks like. Attachment is not just a feeling. It is the way our minds organize reality. It is the deep, instinctive need to hold on to things, people, memories, expectations, and even the narrative of what happened, as if they are anchors keeping us safe in a shifting world. When we experience loss, this attachment immediately kicks in. We feel a fierce urge to possess the memory, to own the story of the relationship, because our mind believes that if we hold on to these things tightly enough, we can somehow control the pain, prevent the future ache, or perhaps even reverse what has already occurred. Ownership is the belief that something belongs solely to us, that it defines our identity. When a relationship ends, we often unconsciously try to claim ownership over the past, trying to assign blame, seeking validation, or demanding that the other person's presence or actions fit into a neat box we have constructed for ourselves. We mistake memory for possession. We confuse the fact that we experience something with the need to perpetually possess the experience itself. This striving for ownership is exhausting. It pulls our energy away from the present moment and anchors us firmly in the emotional landscape of what was, preventing us from stepping into the open space of what is. Consider it like holding water. When you cling tightly to a glass, you try to hold every drop, trying to keep the water inside your grasp. But true freedom comes when we realize that the water does not belong to the glass. It flows through it and around it. Our experience of loss is like this water. We can honor the fact that we were immersed in that feeling, acknowledge the depth of the current, but we do not need to force it into our hands and keep it locked away as a trophy or a burden. The illusion of control thrives in this attachment. We believe that if we just hold on tighter, we can somehow manipulate the past or manage the future. But reality is different. The past is fixed. It happened. Our power does not lie in controlling the external events of another person's life, nor does it lie in controlling the immutable flow of time. Our true power resides in our response to what has already occurred. To let go of ownership is not about erasing the memory or denying the reality of the loss. It is about releasing the demand that this memory must define us or dictate our present peace. It is about shifting from being a possessor, someone who claims and controls, to being an observer, someone who witnesses and permits. This shift requires gentleness. It means allowing the emotion to be present without letting it become the master of your awareness. When you notice that you are gripping tightly, allow a subtle softening. Notice the story you are trying to own, and gently recognize that while you remember the story, you do not have to live inside it forever. This is where we begin to reclaim our inner space. When we stop attempting to manage the external weight of what was, we discover the vast, quiet openness within ourselves. This space exists before the story begins and after it ends, a sanctuary free from the demands of ownership or regret. It is the space that resides in the breath, in the stillness, independent of any relationship, outcome, or expectation. Rest here in this spaciousness. Allow your mind to soften its grip on the need to control. Trust the flow of time, knowing that release is not something we achieve by force, but something we allow to unfold naturally. Let the remnants of that experience settle into acceptance, allowing you to move forward not burdened by what you possessed, but lightened by the freedom you have created within yourself. Rest now deeply and completely. We arrive now at the heart of this reflection, where we look closely at the nature of control itself. We often mistake the desire to control for true power, believing that if we just manage our feelings or predict our future, we can somehow secure peace. But when we examine the weight we carry, the lingering grip of attachment after loss, we find that this seeking of control is often the very thing that intensifies the suffering. Think about the stories we tell ourselves about what should have happened or what must happen next. We try to manage these narratives, trying to force the reality to fit our expectations. We grip tightly onto the memory of the past, attempting to re-edit it, or we obsess over the future, desperately trying to steer it away from pain. This attempt to command external events is an illusion. Control, in this context, is not about manipulating other people or circumstances. It is an internal resistance against what already is. The moment we try to control a feeling, to force sadness away, or to compel ourselves to be indifferent, we create a second layer of conflict. We are fighting the natural flow of experience. This struggle creates tension, and that tension becomes the very weight we carry. The more fiercely we attempt to hold on to a specific outcome, or the more tightly we try to manage the emotional fallout of a loss, the greater the resistance grows. True peace is not found in controlling the external world, which remains inherently unpredictable. Instead, it is found in releasing the need for control over our internal experience. It means recognizing that while we cannot dictate the events of the past or the inevitability of the future, we possess a profound capacity to change our response to them. We can choose where we place our attention, and we can choose how we react to what comes into our awareness. Imagine you are watching the river flow. You cannot stop the water from moving, nor can you command it to pause or speed up. Trying to force the water into a specific shape only results in friction and frustration. But you can simply observe the current. You can acknowledge the flow as it is, allowing yourself to float within the movement without trying to dictate its course. This is the core of letting go, releasing the frantic need to control the story, and instead, trusting the natural rhythm of unfolding. When we stop fighting against reality, when we soften that grip on ownership, we discover a profound spaciousness. We realize that our power does not lie in commanding outcomes, but in accepting the present moment exactly as it is. This shift requires gentleness. It means allowing the emotion to be present without letting it become the master of your awareness. When you notice that you are gripping tightly, allow a subtle softening. Notice the story you are trying to own, and gently recognize that while you remember the story, you do not have to live inside it forever. This is where we move from striving for external control to cultivating internal freedom. We release the burden of ownership, allowing the remnants of that experience to settle into acceptance. Rest here in this spaciousness. Trust the flow of time, knowing that release is not something we achieve by force, but something we allow to unfold naturally. Let the remnants of that attachment dissolve, allowing you to move forward not burdened by what you possessed, but lightened by the freedom you have created within yourself. Rest now deeply and completely. We have acknowledged the weight that settles upon us, understood the nature of attachment, and recognized the illusion of control we hold over our experiences. Now, we arrive at the practice itself, the quiet work of letting go. This is not a sudden event or a grand gesture. It is the gentle, sustained effort of softening a grip that has become too tight. Letting go is not about erasing the memories or pretending that what happened did not occur. It is not about running away from the reality we have lived through. Instead, it is a practice of changing our relationship to those memories and the feelings they bring up. Imagine your mind as a field. Right now, there are weeds, the stories of ownership, the longing for what was, the resistance against what is. Letting go is simply choosing to stop pulling those weeds out by force, and instead, allowing them to settle into the earth, recognizing that they were once there, but no longer defining your present reality. When you feel that familiar tension, the tightening in your chest or the knot in your stomach, do not try to fight it. Resist the urge to analyze it or judge it. Instead, simply notice the sensation, like an observer watching a cloud drift across the sky. See the emotion as it arises, recognizing it for what it is, a passing wave of feeling. This observation creates a small, sacred space between you and the emotion. You are not the emotion. You are the awareness that notices the emotion. This practice requires gentleness. It means offering yourself permission to hold the sorrow or the longing without needing to act upon it or become consumed by it. Think of your heart as a container. When loss occurs, we often try to fill that container with anger or despair, believing that holding on is the only way to keep the pain at bay. But true release happens when we allow the container to simply hold the water, the sadness, the grief, without trying to force it into a shape we can control. Letting go means shifting from ownership to acceptance. We stop trying to own the narrative of the past and instead accept the flow of time as it unfolds. The relationship ended. That is a fact. Our job now is not to mourn what was lost, but to honor the experience that has shaped us, recognizing its place in the story of your life, and then gently allowing the page to turn to the next chapter. When you practice this release, you begin to reclaim an inner space that was previously occupied by striving and resistance. This spaciousness is not emptiness. It is a profound freedom found in the acceptance that everything is impermanent. It is the realization that your worth is not tied to what you possess or what you own, but resides within the quiet center of your awareness. Allow yourself to rest in this space of openness. Trust that release does not happen all at once, but through these small, repeated acts of softness. With every breath, allow a little more of that tension to dissolve. You are not fighting reality. You are simply allowing reality to be what it is, and in that acceptance, true peace begins to settle deep within you. Rest now, knowing that the freedom you seek is already here. We have arrived at this point of gentle acceptance, where we recognize that the story of the relationship has unfolded, and now we turn our attention inward. We have stopped fighting the reality of what was lost, and instead, we allow ourselves to simply observe the landscape of our present self. This is the moment we begin the deeper work of reclaiming the inner space that was previously occupied by striving, resistance, and the heavy burden of ownership. Think for a moment about where you carry your attention right now. Does it feel cluttered? Is there a constant hum of what-ifs or a tightness in your chest related to things that are no longer yours to control? That space, that tension, is the residue of attachment, the effort we expended trying to hold onto something that was destined to move on. It is the weight of expectation, the ownership of a narrative, and the insistence that certain memories must be held tightly for safekeeping. Reclaiming this inner space is not about filling an empty void. It is about recognizing the vast capacity that opens up when you stop trying to define yourself by what you possess or what you are owed. It is a profound freedom found in the acceptance that all those demands, all those stories of ownership, were ultimately held only by us, and now we gently set them down. To reclaim this space, we practice the art of observation. We begin to shift our focus from clinging to the past to simply witnessing the present moment as it unfolds. Imagine your mind as a quiet room. Before, that room was filled with cluttered furniture, memories that demanded constant attention, anxieties about future scenarios, and the solid walls of I should have, or I still deserve. Now we begin to clear those spaces. We do not throw anything away. We simply allow the dust to settle. This reclaiming process is quiet, like the slow movement of water finding its level. It happens with every breath. When a thought related to that past relationship arises, instead of immediately engaging with it or trying to analyze it, you can gently notice it. You see the thought arise, acknowledge its presence, and then allow it to pass without attaching your identity to it. You are not the story. You are the space in which the story happens. Your worth is not tethered to what you owned or what you lost. Your true substance resides in this spaciousness, the quiet awareness that exists beneath the surface of all emotional activity. This inner space is limitless, and it is entirely yours, independent of external circumstances or past relationships. It is a deep reservoir of peace that remains untouched by loss. Allow yourself to rest here, in this reclaimed openness. Trust that this freedom does not arrive in a sudden burst, but through these small, repeated acts of softness. With every breath you take, allow the tension surrounding those old attachments to dissolve just a little more. You are not fighting reality. You are simply allowing reality to be what it is, and in that deep acceptance, true peace begins to settle into the very core of your being. Rest now, knowing that this spaciousness is already yours. We arrive now at the quiet space of resting in openness. If the previous chapters taught us how to release the grip of attachment, this chapter is about what happens when that grip finally softens, about inhabiting the freedom that remains. The weight of the day often settles not just in our bodies, but in the relentless mental effort we expend trying to manage the past. We spend so much energy analyzing what was lost, or trying to redefine what we once owned, that we forget how to simply exist now. Resting in openness is the gentle, radical permission to stop holding on to the need for control over those memories and experiences. It is recognizing that the story of a relationship, or the history of loss, exists, but it no longer dictates your present reality. Openness is not emptiness. It is not an absence of feeling. Rather, it is the awareness that there is space between the feeling and the reaction. Imagine a vast, still lake. The surface reflects everything: the sunlight, the shadows, the ripples of memory, but the water itself remains deeply calm and undisturbed. This is your inner space. It is the reservoir of peace that you established earlier, now allowing it to become the setting for your rest. When we stop trying to own the past, we create room for the present moment to breathe freely. The mind stops running in endless loops of what if or if only, and instead settles into a simple, gentle awareness of what is. This awareness doesn't demand action. It simply observes. It allows you to witness the emotional currents flowing through you without needing to jump onto the boat and try to steer them immediately. This stillness is where true power resides. When you release the need to control the narrative of a past relationship, you stop fighting against what was. You allow the memory to be a gentle echo, not a tether pulling you back into distress. You are no longer defined by the ownership or lack thereof. You are simply the observer, the anchor of your own present existence. To rest in this openness is to practice softness. It means treating your mind as a garden that needs time and space to grow without constant pruning. When old attachments try to surface, a sudden pang of longing, a familiar sense of sadness, do not immediately grasp them or judge them. Instead, gently notice the sensation arising within you. See it as a passing cloud, a temporary wave. Acknowledge its presence, feel it briefly, and then consciously let it dissolve back into the quiet expanse of your awareness. This is not suppression. This is acceptance. You are simply allowing reality to be what it is, without layering on the added burden of needing to fix it or rewind it. You allow the sorrow, the longing, and the absence to exist in the space, knowing they are temporary visitors, not permanent residents. With every breath you take, you deepen this rest. Feel the sensation of your body supported by the present moment. Allow the tension that has accumulated around those old attachments to soften, dissolving into the gentle rhythm of your exhale. You are safe here. You are held in this space. This spaciousness is not something you have to earn. It is simply the inherent nature of your being. Rest now, knowing that this openness is not a destination you must reach, but a continuous state you can inhabit. Rest in the quiet freedom of just being. Let go of the need to hold on and simply let yourself be. Sleep deeply knowing that you are free.